All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. Guys, so the name of the video here is Just In. Police arrest 50 plus anti-ICE protesters in Minneapolis. Guys, isn't it like 3 degrees out there, bro? Go home. It's okay. We get it, bro. Kamala lost. I know. You're mad. I get it. But go home, guys. It's time. It's time now, bro. Let's encounter it.
Police arresting nearly 50 protesters outside of a federal building in Minneapolis as Homeland Security warns of escalating attacks on ICE agents. The senior correspondent, Steve Harrigan, live in Minneapolis with the latest from there. Steve.
Kevin, that protest out in front of the federal building in Minneapolis turned violent after protesters were told to disperse. At least 42 people were arrested when they were told they had to break it up. Many began throwing bottles and ice at the federal agents. At least one agent wounded, one patrol car smashed up, one protester arrested for assault. In the meantime here, these daily protests are really taking a toll on the local economy, especially small businesses and restaurants having a hard time. Local entrepreneurs trying to encourage people to buy local, many saying that this is worse for businesses than even COVID was.
Jeez, dudes. Like, guys, I understand this here. Like, this has basically been deemed as unlawful assembly, and they're still out here. Like, the entirety of the time, like, I guess in the early stages at least, you heard the left basically screaming from the rooftops that everything was peaceful. This does not look very peaceful. It never looked peaceful.
My co-founder and I stopped by a restaurant on our street and ended up filling to-go orders for them because more than 50% of his staff is gone, afraid to come to work for fear of being taken by ICE, even as U.S. citizens, even with work permits, even with the right paperwork.
We've lived through this.
So then why would you be taken by ICE, guys?
2020 following the murder of George Floyd, and we're living through it again, and this time it's worse.
You bred these people, bro.
700 ICE agents were pulled out on Wednesday. That still leaves 2,000 here. So far, no public timeline on when they will be leaving. Kevin, back to you.
Stay warm or do the best you can. Steve Harrigan up in Minneapolis. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate that. Joining me now is Chad Wolf, former DHS Secretary and America First Policy Institute Executive Director. Always a pleasure to have you with us because I know you understand better than most the severity of the circumstance in Minneapolis. We're not just talking about trying to rid the homeland of individuals who have no right to be here, but have also, Chad, created havoc on this nation and on its people. That's why what's happening there is such an important storyline, even at this hour. You saw Steve there talking about the removal of some of these protesters. That seems to be a bit of a shift or maybe a bit of tightening on their policy, and it seems to be working. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the ongoing violent protest, you just reported you had 40 individuals arrested because of that violence. I think this is a real problem for Minneapolis and for those Democratic leaders there, because what they have been telling the American people is that those protests are peaceful, and that if ICE withdraws, then some of that protest and some of the violence, I should say, can abate, and it doesn't seem to be the case.
Right.
So what we need now is we need the leadership of the Democratic Party to come out and start saying, stop with the violent protesting. Stop.
They're
with
not
the
going to say that,
violence there
guys.
in Minneapolis.
They're not.
Because as Tom Homan has said, if the violence subsides, then they can draw down even more resources there in Minneapolis, which is what those leaders want. But if that violence continues, as we see, that the numbers aren't going to dwindle. In fact, they're likely to go up because you need to protect those officers.
Yeah, they're going to ramp up.
Now is the time that you need Democratic leaders to say enough is enough. We're going to send in the police. We're going to arrest the violent protesters immediately. We're going to hold them accountable. And now is the time for them to start speaking out.
Is this a federal law circumstance? Because I think the concern from some, Chad, would be you're going to arrest these guys. They're just going to be back out on the streets in a couple of hours.
That's a good point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's going to be prosecuted at the local level for the most part.
And it's going to go nowhere.
You've got federal law enforcement and prosecutors that want to weigh in. It depends on the types of things that they are being arrested for. If
right, obviously.
Assaulting federal officers, obviously.
They can't walk that back.
A prosecutor can get involved. If they're doing other things that are more locally based, then some of the local prosecutors will eventually prosecute that. But the concern is, yes, absolutely, they go in jail and then they just simply get out in a matter of hours. I think that is the concern. And so you need the Trump administration weighing in with the local leaders, talking to the governor, talking to the mayor, and talking to others to say, look, we're doing our part. We've withdrawn some ICE assets here because we told you if the violence starts to diminish, we can remove even more. But if the violence stays the same or is increasing, that's a real problem for the leaders there in Minneapolis.
You guys, because it's not really about them taking like a small amount of people. 700 people is a lot of people. Understand this here. All right. But they don't care about that. They want every single ICE agent that is there basically to like legitimately do their job to leave. And that's it. They don't care. If there's one, they're still going to be out here doing this, guys. Because this is kind of who they are. Understand this here also. In terms of like the local government, any type of judge or any type of prosecutor that would be looking at the case, they themselves are most likely going to be inundated with the same overall, echo chamber that these individuals are also experiencing here, guys.
Yeah, and a lot of people felt like, well, they changed. They took a 700 person drawdown, but listen, more than 2,000 people still on the ground trying to
they don't care.
change in what's been happening there. And give Tom Homan credit. Here's a guy who has come in, Chad, and really sort of shifted the narrative just a bit. And again, and I think the messaging is part of this. We're not talking about running around to some office building or some restaurant. We're talking about getting the worst of the worst out of this country, off the streets, and no longer a danger to its citizens.
Well, you're absolutely right. Look, the president's decision to send Tom in it was a stroke of genius. And Tom has been able to go in over this past week or more with a very calm voice, so a really rational response, outlining what it is ICE was going to do, shifting some resources, shifting some of the operational requirements there on the ground. And I think the American people are starting to realize that. But now is the time for Minneapolis to do their part. Now is the time for the local leaders to do their part and make sure
you're asking too much.
Does not get out of control, and that they are stepping in and putting an end to it. Because then that cooperation can continue. But if you see a spike in some of the violent activity there, DHS is going to, it's going to protect its officers. And
absolutely.
So those resources, the 2,000 or so that remain, are likely not going anywhere if that violence continues.
Absolutely. And you have to do what you can and what you obviously are required to do, and that is protect this country from those who might harm us. And by the way, for the record,
and it could definitely be internal also, guys.
He's obviously also working now with counties to make sure that they can, again, take this sort of out of the public purview. Let's get the people who are already in custody out of there as quickly as possible. Chad Wolf, great to see you, my friend. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, guys. Okay. Yeah, I don't really see much changing here, guys. I mean, listen, obviously, the people that are out there protesting just do not want a singular ICE agent there in the first place, guys, right? Like, we're moving away from the realm of, like, actual, let's say, logical, I have an issue with the United States of America, so I'm going to protest type of realm of things, right? To absolute chaos and anarchy here, guys. All right. Like, when you start pushing back against the federal government, I understand you have the right to in a very peaceful manner, but not to actually interfere, because again, this is why this whole protest thing was basically deemed as unlawful assembly, guys. Right now, Tom Homan being there, that's a good thing. Personally, right? I mean, I do think that if he has the ability to basically speak to like the local officials and just to kind of remind them, let's say, that they are definitely, in fact, a part of the United States of America, and they basically need to, for the most part, adhere to the federal government, let's say here, and not be activist judges or prosecutors in the case of any of these instances here, guys, right? Like, you need to basically maintain some type of overall authority, because without authority, we are nothing. As if we had no border, we would be nothing. You get what I'm saying here, guys? All right. My opinion, obviously, here, guys. But listen, if more develops, we'll definitely encounter this. But in the meantime, if you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies. And I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings. And we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry, right? Listen, like and subscribe.